They told you play it safe, stay where you are, keep your head down, don't reach too far, build someone else's dream instead, trade your vision. Okay, so we will go ahead and get started. So, hey, this is Carolyn Elephant, and I'm here with MyShingle.com. And this is also part of the First Things First program. Some of the things that you have to do first to get a law firm started as quickly as possible in AI age. And I am very excited to have my friend Ernie. I still remember him as Ernie the attorney. I don't know if you still go by that moniker,
I do.
but he's been writing about legal tech and law firms and all kinds of things in that space for as long as I can remember. And so I wanted to have a conversation with Ernie about the AI native law firm and find out whether it's really a new idea or just a rebranding of something that we've seen before. So welcome, Ernie, and introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you so much, Carolyn. Yeah, I do go by Ernie the Attorney, and you and I came up through the blogosphere. There's another term that doesn't get thrown around anymore. So yeah, so we've been observing all this stuff with technology changing the practice of law in many ways. This is definitely the most challenging era. So what do I do now? What I don't practice law. I help lawyers in my online community, of which you are a member, and thank you for your many valuable contributions. But I help lawyers, just by bringing them together so they can discuss these things. And, this is a good topic because we did talk about this, but I think after a while we realized like when you say AI native law firm, it's as though there is a thing that some people can agree on, and even if they could, would it not change or would it be constantly changing? So, but I know in general what people are saying. I think it's aspirational. Like, oh, I will have this firm. It will be AI native. All things will be AI, and I'll do very little, and I'll swim in the pool, and I'll have a lot of time off, and it'll all be great. Well, you still have to manage AI, okay? And AI, there's a lot of different ideas about how much it needs to be managed, and it can be risky, but you need to manage it even if it's not risky, just to be saying, okay, that's what I wanted. No, that's not what I want. Okay, let's automate this. So the AI native law firm, I just think it's a unicorn. Like it doesn't, the way people talk about it, it's marketing hype, which is not to say that there isn't something valuable there to talk about. So yes, lawyers, especially solo and small firm lawyers, which is who, we care about the most, they need to maximize their resources. And AI and technology can help them, but they also need to understand what they're getting into. And if you listen to the hype fest people out there, even the ones that mean well and are trying to help you, a lot of times they can send you down a path that probably isn't the path you should have been going down, which if you had been talking to other lawyers that were similarly situated, you would have had more of a group instinct, like, yeah, I don't know, that seems like a promise. Maybe I don't really want to do that or don't want to do it tomorrow. So that's my opening salvo, if you will.
Right. So I've seen there's some discussion of AI native firms also on LinkedIn because ironically, this is not just unique or native to solos and small lawyers, law firms, and entrepreneurs. I think big law has really been captivated by this idea of the AI native firm. And so one of I guess it was a definition or way of looking at the AI native firm was like sort of as a native speaking language. So you assume that everything can be done by AI. You kind of flip the script instead of saying, I have a law firm, I'm a human starting it. What can AI do? You start off assuming AI can do everything and then figure out what AI can't replace or what human tasks it can't do. So I don't
Mhm.
know if you've come across that definition and if that is another way of looking at it, or if it's just another way of saying the same thing.
Yeah, no, I've heard that said and I've thought about that. And that's an interesting lens through which to look at it. And I would do that. Like if I were practicing law, I'd say, let me just assume AI can do everything. Now, but I'm more intrepid. I'm more risk tolerant. I'm not risk averse. I'm curious. So for me, the trade-offs would be like I can accept those trade-offs. But if somebody says, hey, you just use it for everything, it reminds me of a guy named Rory Sutherland who's very smart. He's got a book called Alchemy, which is wonderful. But he was at Ogilvy Mathers. He's a marketing guy, but it's more he understands human nature, right? And he says he's been taught, to test human nature and understand it. And he's got this theory, which I heard him say, which is about trying new things. and he calls it the dishwasher safe theory or something like that. Like instead of reading and trying to figure out what's dishwasher safe, just put it all in the dishwasher. And what doesn't survive, you know it wasn't safe. See, but that's not going to work, right? Like if you go, oh my God, I tried AI everything, and then the firm like ran into we all of our data was compromised. Now I learned that I shouldn't do that, but there are consequences to that. So I don't think that appeals to most lawyers or many lawyers, and it shouldn't. But I do think one should be as intrepid as you can. And if you're in a firm with a lot of other lawyers, then let somebody be the one who's more intrepid in a sandbox and come back and report to the group like, yeah, this didn't really work the way we thought it would. And what you're going to find is that some of the things that are low level and not threatening, you realize like you didn't want to do. They weren't worth your time. But we're in the era where somebody has to be testing, exploring, being curious. And in a small firm, a solo firm, that's only one person. So that person is either curious or not. And I think the advantage that solos in very small firms, and I say this having just gotten off of our inner circle discussion about AI, is we're all just trying to help each other. Like nobody has some incentive to kneecap the other person or, steal their clients or outshine them. If you get a good highly curated group of lawyers talking about it, they just have a really nice conversation. And the lawyers there were going, man, this is great. Because you don't hear that elsewhere. You need a group of people, but they need to be at a certain level of understanding. They need to be at a certain level of willingness to cooperate collaboratively. And then magic. But you're not going to get that in a big firm. I've been in big firms. That does not happen in a big firm.
That's true. So I remember you had a concept that you used to talk about on the speaking circle. It was the circuit. It was
Little big firm.
little big firm. And so when I hear about AI being used to substitute for big law, like some of these big law firms or these firms, these AI native firms like Crosby or Soxton that are using AI, leveraging AI to provide big law services at lower rates and in a more automated, efficient fashion. Is that something new, or do you think it's just a rebrand of your old concept? And the second part of that question is, you talked about leveraging technology to be able to level the playing field. And does AI do more of that than the traditional AI, the traditional tech tools that you were talking about when you first introduced that concept?
Yeah, I'll answer the second question first. Yes, absolutely. AI eliminates the disparity in the playing field. The playing field now is can the it's because it's all individual lawyer powered. Like if your brain understands how to leverage AI, you'll be accelerating and doing great. Can you help other people around you? To some extent, but a lot gets lost in translation. But the little big firm, what I meant by that when I wrote it, which was a really long time ago, was because I left the big firm, I loved everybody there, I still do, but they weren't as interested in embracing technology as I was, and it was annoying both of us. And so I just said, fine, I'll go out on my own. But I was looking at each thing and saying, how can I replicate that thing which was a benefit to my firm. And one of them was they had a receptionist. The receptionist was wonderful. Laura, everybody loved Laura. Like I was like, well, I can't hire a Laura, but now you can. You can hire, one of these virtual receptionist companies. And now AI can even do that pretty well and it's going to get better, right? So each of those things that a big firm had complete dominance over, I'm pretty sure they've all gone away. Like I've been observing this closely. They've all gone away. It's all about the individual lawyer. An individual lawyer with access to AI is like the $6 million man with prosthetics, but for cognitive ability. And I think in big firms, because that's talking about a black box, that's kind of a black box. What they tell you they're doing and what they're actually doing are probably two different things. And my firm wasn't the biggest one, but I know enough people, I've done enough human nature studies of how it works. And, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors coming out of there. The reality is, most lawyers are not using AI. And I mean, who cares? I want to know how many lawyers in that firm are actually using it. And most of them, if they say they're using it, most of them are probably not, or they're not really using it in any sophisticated way. I turned it on, I asked it a question, I'm using it. Yeah, that's not what use is. And then in other firms where they're not using those tools, there are people secretly using them and not telling people because they don't want to be, told like, well, then here's more work, since you're able to do it so efficiently. So there's a lot of black box, not just from the AI, but I do think solo and small firms are where it's at. We're just an information processing business. Like, you use your brain, you spot patterns. Like if AI can help you spot patterns faster and better, and you're not going to trust it, which we've learned the hallucination, trust, chaos, catastrophe, that happens in big firms too, right? Because this is it's like the old Warren Buffett saying, like nobody knows who's swimming naked till the tide comes in. Like nobody's known how incompetent most lawyers are in big and small firms, or lazy, complacent, whatever. Oh, we're finding out now. They're blaming AI. It's not AI. That was their nature. That is their nature, right? So if your nature is to have integrity, check things, be disciplined, AI is not going to trip you up. It's just going to benefit you.
So if you were working with people, and I'm sure there are some people in the inner circle who are just starting a firm from ground zero, either right out of law school or
Mhm.
after a 20-year career at big law, what tools would you advise them to use?
That's a good question. All right. Well, number one, I think a text to speech tool, because to interact with AI, you don't want to be typing, and you also want to be able to use it on your phone. And if you have to type on your phone, it's game over, right? So you have to go from thought in head, words, ideas into like something text being produced. So for me, that tool is WhisperFlow. I don't know if you use
Yeah,
WhisperFlow, but
you turned me onto it. I can't
oh,
stop now.
yeah.
I talk 8 times faster than I write, and I thought I was a fast typist.
Yeah, and yes, there are other tools that do something like it. This is definitely the dominant one. I'm sure they'll have competition, but for now it's WhisperFlow, and yeah, so that's number one. Once you are able to get thoughts out of your head and use something like WhisperFlow, then it's an AI tool. And right now, to me, as between Claude and ChatGPT, I prefer Claude. I know ChatGPT has caught up supposedly or somewhat. I haven't fully tested the comparison, so I can't say that definitively. But I feel like I don't care. Pick one, whichever one is better. Claude has been better. Claude has the ethics behind Claude. I just like Dario Amodei more than I like Sam Altman. And so that matters to me. But whichever one, they have some parity now, but you must use one of those two. And then Gemini, I know people that use Gemini, and yes, Notebook LM, whatever. But I feel like, and this is I'm drawing on my experience of observing the lawyers that talk about this every week. The ones who use Gemini, they're more tech savvy. And I go, great, keep using it. You like it, you understand it, you don't need help from me to tell you how to use it. But the ones who need more guidance, they need to be told to or encouraged to use one of the other two, either Claude or ChatGPT. And Claude is really good. And I'll tell you, and actually, I want to share this with you. So and we talked about this today earlier. So there was a lawyer when I came out of clerking for the judge for 2 years, went to work for the firm. This guy was really good at writing briefs. He clerked for the Brian White on the Supreme Court. If he took one of your briefs and made it better, not by doing additional research. He just made it more persuasive. It was just like, whoa, we win. Oh my God. And I didn't know the magic, and it took me a while and I got better and better. But I wondered if I gave 3 briefs of his to Claude to analyze, and I did this yesterday. And oh my God. And I didn't tell it what I didn't express my words of how I didn't say he takes something and then you just read it and you go, oh my God, I win. And it's nailed it. It said, this is written by a confident person who understands how to make the argument persuasively. And that's what he was. He was just completely confident. So it's a skill and I can share it with people. And I think that's what people should be doing in firms. Like somebody figure out the best way to write a brief. If it's the Bill Dizarella approach, I'm happy to give him credit. That's his name, Bill Dizarella. He works for Bowie's firm now, or did work for Bowie's firm. He just writes really well. And I'm curious, and I would be curious if you used it because it doesn't, I didn't tell it to rewrite the brief. That, no lawyer wants that. Tell it what could make it better, right? Give it guidance. So I think that's a kind of thing that can be bestowed upon somebody else. Again, if they're using their critical thinking skills and not like, well, I got the skill, I'll just take whatever it puts out and, just put my name on it. That's not the idea, right?
Right. Yeah, no, I love using the tools for things like that, for the guts of the work. I'm not, I mean, I can set it up to do automations, and I know that there are people who have these like very complex, almost like Rube Goldberg types of automations. The agent comes in and checks the mail and puts it on the calendar, does this and does that. And
Right.
then it makes me, I mean, I can do that, but it's I don't even feel like it's a huge time saver for me because I don't have volume practice. But do you think lawyers should be looking at those tools too, or should they be using, like, what types of administrivia should they be using Claude for in addition, or should they just be using traditional tools like Zapier or practice management systems or things that come out of the box?
Yeah, well, I mean, again, we're talking solo small firms, and the answer is, it's the Wild West. There's all kinds of things you can do. You can vibe code. Like I vibe
Right.
coded something now, and when I vibe coded, I the thing I learned that's best to do when you're going into the realm of vibe coding and moving up that level of where it can do more things for you is just play dumb. Like I vibe coded something and then it produced something that I wanted on the web. And I was like, well, why don't I just act like I don't know how to do this? I'm like, well, I think this belongs on the web. And I said, yeah, you should have that assessment on the web. And I said, well, what do you recommend? And it gave me a recommendation. I was like, well, could you just do that for me? Yeah, I'll need access to your Chrome browser. Okay, well, here you go. Go do it. And so if you can think of ways that you want things to be done, or you can think of ways to modify them, it'll do all that stuff. I personally agree with you. Like, I wouldn't go too into the weeds of like, I'm gonna have it check my mail and then move this over here. Because look, this is gonna be the same problem it was in automation before AI. You're going to have to manage that stuff, right? Like when it doesn't fire, you're going to have to go in there and troubleshoot that. Do we enjoy doing that? No, we don't. So then you got to ask yourself, how much benefit is there coming from this thing with this Rube Goldberg stuff? So if you're going to build something out like that, then what I would say, and I am building something along those lines, but I'm building it very slowly and constantly every day going, okay, well, you created a new folder for that. Let's put that over here. So it's very iterative. It's more like the construction of a coral reef, hopefully not taking as long. But I just think when you try to do too much too fast out of exuberance or enthusiasm or self-delusion, it doesn't generally end well.
Yeah, no, I have found that even systems that I set up, I had this project that I set up about 6 months ago that worked like clockwork, picture perfect decisions every single time. And then when I used it like 2 days ago, it completely screwed up. I had to retrain it all over again. So I
Right.
don't know what had happened with that, but I guess I don't know if it's the tools changing or the way they interact with your environment. I don't know if anybody knows. That's
It's
kind
all
of,
a black box. But yeah, you can't count on those things. So how many of those things that can change are you going to want to have to manage? There's a famous Jeff Bezos quote, or it's famous to me because I repeat it or think about it constantly. Somebody asked him, some journalist like, oh, what's the next thing? What's changing? What's important? He goes, I avoid change. I look for things that aren't changing. And I'm like, okay, there's somebody who has the technical ability and the money, and he's saying, I shun and avoid change. So obviously, we embrace change in certain places, shouldn't avoid it altogether, but too much of it, not good.
right. And so, speaking of change, I mean, how do you see this changing solo practice in the legal profession? Are you in the school that 5 years from now lawyers are going to be obsolete, or in the school that they'll never make me obsolete because AI makes mistakes and I'm always going to have to be there to clean up the mess? So those are like the two uh,
Yeah, those
bookends.
those are the bookends, and I think when you frame it that way, then if somebody answers the question, you're biting into that framework. And I think the truth is probably as it has been with technology from the beginning. It's something that we can't see because we can't see around the corner as to how things are going to reorganize and change and so forth. I don't think that AI is going to eliminate all jobs. I think it's going to eliminate a lot of jobs because, again, the tide's going out and a lot of people have been phoning it in and they're not really high value. Um, and so AI will definitely disrupt those people, and frankly, it should. But it's going to create new jobs, and what those new jobs all are will be hard to say because they'll depend on people acquiring skills, the AI models changing, all that stuff is going to be hard to predict. But I do think, and I was a philosophy major, so I've always tried to think about things in a big picture way. And to me, um, I think what lawyers do, especially lawyers who are experienced and have learned a lot, there's a lot of judgment that we don't we it's a black box to us. Like what is the judgment I'm using when I instinctively know don't do that. I can articulate some of it off the top of my head, but it's not fine-tuned and granular. I think we're gonna spend more time thinking about that because if we want to mentor or bring along other young lawyers, saying, "Oh, you know what? I see. That's what those elements are." Like when I ran the Claude skill from my friend Bill Dizarella and it said, "Here are 11 things he's doing." I'm like, "Wow, like that's amazing." Like, I would have never been able to articulate that, and I bet you he couldn't either, right? So, but if
Right.
you can use these tools to figure out the components, then you can help guide other people or make decisions better or understand maybe the components upon which you are making decisions. But lawyers who are good, they're good at analyzing things. They're good at synthesizing. They're good at knowing when to take risk. There's a whole bunch of things that AI is not going to do that anytime soon. And even if it can sort of do that, I mean, imagine the analogy of self-driving cars. Like a self-driving car, it's going to be better than humans. It's going to not drink and drive, as long as it has battery power and internet access and doesn't mistake something for something else, it'll be fine. And it'll be just that alone makes it better than most human drivers in the aggregate. That's not true for lawyers unless if we remove the ones that are phoning it in. The ones that are doing a good job are doing something that you're not going to be able to do self-driving car kind of thing because there's too many, things that are not observed. Like yeah, pattern recognition, summarization, all that stuff. But then where's the judgment? I know what good lawyer judgment looks like, so do you. And I don't think good clients are going to want to pay money to get a bot spit out an answer. Some will. Some people want that because they can't afford lawyers or they think you know, that's what they should get. But I mean, I've had clients, and I know you have, they don't take your advice, okay? You give them really good advice, they don't take it. And then something blows up. You go, well, I told you not to do that, right? So good clients and good lawyers, I think that would continue to be a good mix.
Yeah, no, I think so too. But at the same time, I think lawyers still have to be aware of AI. I don't think the fact that they can survive on judgment means that they should be,
Oh,
hand sending
oh, agree. No, agree.
notes
You
or,
can't ignore it. You should be using it. If you have good judgment, part of your good judgment now should be, wow, how can I start using AI in my practice? That would be recommended.
yeah. So for the last question, people are so overwhelmed by AI decisions. I guess you already said you would start with Claude and with some sort of dictation tool. Do you
Hmm.
have any other suggestions for what they can do to prevent themselves from going down the rabbit hole?
I would join a group of other lawyers who are at your level talking about this. Or if you can't, if you, or even before you do that, follow certain people on LinkedIn. Like I tell lawyers, follow Carolyn Elephant. And it has surprised me. Not that I run into a lot of lawyers, but it surprised me. Some of them that are pretty tech savvy and embrace social media, whatever. I'll go, do you know about Carolyn Elephant? They go, no. I'm like, well, dude, like subscribe to her feed immediately. Helen Fan, I
Oh
think that's
yeah, she's
another person
amazing.
to follow. Ali Miller, Ethan Malik, obviously. I don't know, who would you add to that list?
Oh gosh, let's see. I know I would follow you, of course,
Matthew
but
Matthew Kurbis. Matthew Kurbis.
yes, yes. Yeah. I mean, there's so many people coming at it different ways. Preferences for people who are practicing lawyers who are talking about AI as opposed to just pure AI
Yep.
consultants,
Amen.
just for
Amen.
following. I mean, it's not to say I wouldn't hire an AI consultant because that's a different situation, but
No, I totally agree. You want to be monitoring those who are actually in the trenches because otherwise you're not going to know whether it's hype. And there's always these hype of like, oh, I here's the code that cracks everything. Here's the secret prompt. It's like, please, you have to learn. It's like writing. Learning to use AI is like writing. Like you have to evaluate it. You have to think it through, and it's tedious. It's hard. It's learning this stuff is not like a one-shot deal, but monitoring other people who are doing that and doing that in a practical way, like you, like Matthew, like others, yeah, follow those people. Because if they say, I tried this and it blew up in my face, then maybe don't try that or don't try it, tomorrow.
Yeah, no, that's helpful, and that can help at least weed out some of the noise because I guess the other thing that bothers me sometimes on LinkedIn is people come and say, I did, they've done all these things, and it's just like they don't show you like how long it took. I mean, sometimes just like
Right.
doing something like setting up the simple landing page, it still is like an hour-long process. And oh, they didn't mention that you have to have a GitHub account and a Vercel account. People just like kind of like gloss over that sometimes. So sometimes those things
Right.
take a little longer than you thought. Doesn't mean they're not worth doing, but it just skip into the good part.
Right. Well, if they're making money in some consultative way, I mean, it's like don't ask a barber if you need a haircut, right? Because they tell you need a haircut. So if they're making money in some way, their incentives might be diverted in some way. And my dad was a shrink, so I think of like people as humans, and they they have certain tendencies. So we have unconscious bias sometimes, and it's that story of what's the line? Upton Sinclair. Um, you know, uh, a man can only understand, man, what is it? How does it go? If his job depends on him not understanding something, then they don't understand it, right? Like
Right, right.
you understand things in a certain way. So somebody's trying to get you to buy into the thing, even if they mean well, like which they do generally. Yeah, then they're going to leave out the part where like they show you how it worked, because then you won't pay them money. My theory is like nobody should be making money off of hiding something from somebody. All the information's out there. At this point, the AI bot will show you how to do it. So if my business model depends on me not telling them, that's not a good business model. So
Yeah.
don't follow those people.
No, that sounds reasonable. Well, this has been really useful. Like I said, this is going to become part of the series that I'm putting together on using AI to start a practice because I haven't, I'm been behind on something like that. I'm sharing with people how to use it to start. But how can people get in touch with you, or if they want to find you or follow you on LinkedIn or learn more about your programs?
At this point, if just like the old days, if you search for Ernie the attorney, even though there are many other attorneys who are named Ernie who tell me that they were first and whatever, you'll still find my stuff first. And it's ernietheattorney.net or my inner circle, you'll find it. And if you find it, all roads lead to me from there. Or you can type in Ernie Svenson on LinkedIn. But yeah, no, I enjoy this time of life now because there's so much opportunity for lawyers who want to do the right thing in the right way. It used to be, as you remember, in the early days of this, task of getting lawyers to use technology, it was hard. But the ones who get it, and they just need to be pointed in a good direction. And your direction is a good direction. I hope mine is deemed to be as well. But yeah, let's give up the drudgery and make our lives easier.
Absolutely. Anyway, have a great weekend.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks, Carolyn.
Okay.